Yeah, we're Chris and Colin from Oddfellows, and it's great to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did we meet? Was it through Blendfest at all? Was that the way it sort of happened? Or?
2017, yeah. I met Bruce and Hans. They were at the Blend Festival, which is a festival that takes place in Vancouver every 2 years. And so they were there in 2017, we talked a little bit, and then in 2019, the conference that just happened, I saw Bruce again. And I think we had gotten the invite before that to actually come to the festival. And so that's really kind of how it all sort of unfolded. And then coming here, we actually got to spend more time with the team that's throwing it, like Bruce and Hans and the rest of the gang. And yeah, it's been awesome to connect with everyone.
Yeah. Ooh, big question.
It's a hard question.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've grown to a size that it's hard to not be sort of more focused on the business, you know. And I think we'd like to get our hands in the projects and kind of like, you know, animate on a shot here, try to design something here. But I think we know that like at a certain size, when we do that, you know, we're taking something away from the team, or we're, you know, like our role is really to kind of like be up top, like thinking broader, thinking higher about the types of work we're doing, and making sure the team's satisfied with the projects we're on. And so I think we know that stuff is a little bit more important for us than actually getting in there, as much as we want to kind of like get in there and make something, you know. Yeah,
not even important to us, although it is, but it's just important for the process and the company.
Yeah, I mean, I think like talent is important. We want to work with talented people and create the best work possible, but I think at the end of the day, what's really important for us is like the relationships with the people we have, and a team that functions well because everybody wants to be together and kind of be a part of like a collaborative experience together. That's ultimately like the most important thing. You want to be able to just enjoy. We spend so much time animating that you want to be able to enjoy that process.
Yeah, there's so many things like to look out for, but it needs to be a good mix of kind of all those things to sort of bring someone in and have them be a fellow. But I'd say like problems arise, and there's all sorts of different problems that kind of arise in the studio. So it really depends on the problem. But if it's you know, a project where we aimed really high and felt like we fell a little short of like where we wanted to be, then we usually do like a post-mortem on the job and talk about what went right, but also more importantly, what went wrong.
Yeah.
So that when the next opportunity comes, hopefully we don't make the same mistake twice. Yeah. And then some people also, when it comes to just artists and kind of working on jobs, some people get burnt out if it's the same type of work over and over and over again. And so making sure that we hear what problems people are kind of like facing and trying to adjust what they're working on to keep them creatively like stimulated and satisfied is also important. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the nice thing about having a team is you know, we spend a lot of time like ideating and trying to come up with ideas, and sometimes someone has a great idea and sometimes they don't, but just that interaction and having like the idea come from sort of this shared experience in the studio is super helpful, because it means no one's ever on the hook for creating the one great idea. You know, usually it comes out of a discussion and sort of a combination of thoughts and interactions and conversations. And so that usually leads to something that's interesting. Sometimes it's easier to get there than other times, but out of that conversation, we can always get someplace that we usually like. Well, I think like the first thing is like we are okay with people making mistakes. I think it's super important to getting to somewhere interesting, and so it's fine. Like promoting like a culture that is okay with failure is okay, and then, you know, based off what that failure was, we sort of analyze it, try to see what wasn't working about it, and that can kind of inform where to head next.
I mean, we try to carve out a lot of time for like getting the team together to do things that aren't work related. It's not design, it's not animation. You know, let's go. We have movie nights or game nights where we all get together and play video games at the studio, or have life drawing, or just go out and kind of hang out. And I think, you know, having a team of people that you want to hang out with outside of work is really important. And to watch the team kind of do that without us, and just kind of like a culture build in the studio, I think has been one of the most exciting things. I think for us, it's pretty rewarding. I think having like open communication is really important. You know, we try to be pretty transparent and and listen a lot to the clients. So like really trying to understand what is the goal, what is the thing that they're trying to solve, and the challenges that they're facing. So that when we're making like creative decisions, like every decision that we're making kind of like goes back to that. I mean, we know we're on the right path if we're trying to solve those things. And I think like earlier in our careers, we get excited about the job and we just like want to make a beautiful thing, you know, and we didn't take that time to kind of like stop and think and really listen and then make the project.
Yeah, I think making arguments based off whether they're solving the problem and not purely off of taste is also important, because taste is so subjective that if you can, you know, communicate that it solves the problem that they're after, I think that's a much better sort of avenue to head down. Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the first things is just, again, about listening, is that you know right away, I think, when a client is that type of client. They're like, okay, they're a little bit more conservative. They might not want to like go super crazy and wild on the art and do something that is, you know, feels scary to them to be very different. And other clients you have that, you know, they want to be very different. They want to stand out, you know. And so I think even within like a, you know, for a conservative client, finding a way to just push them a little bit, you know, and maybe it's like showing options. You show like, okay, here's something that's safe. That feels like you guys. It feels like it solves the problem, but it's not going to push it too far. And then you might show them something else that's like, okay, here's the other side of the spectrum that is a little bit crazier and a little out there for you. Like, how do you feel about this? And maybe it's something in between, or maybe it's this, but I think it's just kind of being okay with whatever road they kind of want you to go down.
Yeah. If you do show them that like wild direction too, oftentimes that direction where you pushed it just a little bit feels like a really safe option. And then also if you have a established relationship with a client that kind of evolves over time too, you can kind of incrementally like, sort of push them further and further and further, and then all of a sudden, you know, if you made that jump, all of a sudden it would be like, whoa, where are we? But over time, it's much more palatable. I think the most important part is, I think it would be very hard to be super good at, you know, all of those skills together. And so what we did and what we think is super important is just finding some friends that sort of, you know, fit within, you know, you all have sort of a specialty, and maybe there's some crossover in that specialty, so you speak the language, but you can kind of count on the friend to help out with that avenue. So if you all band together, then you create a really holistic picture for making something great.
Yeah, so there's, I think, that question of like, are you a specialist or are you a generalist, and how many things do I need to know? And I think when we look for talent, I think we're looking for people who are really talented at kind of like one or maybe two things, that kind of understand, you know, they know how to speak with the other artists on the team, that even if that's not something they're super fluent in, they all can like talk together and work together to solve problems. I can't think of like, I don't know, there's not one thing that like pops out in my mind, but I think like it's interesting to see different studios and different artists like just sort of pushing, you know, kind of colliding different mediums together. So, you know, mixing like 2D and 3D, and then cell animation with 3D, and, you know, some people doing a lot of like painting and modeling and VR, and then bringing it into Cinema 4D. And so it's sort of like these weird combinations of technologies and the tools. It's been interesting.
A good example of that, there was a new Radiohead video that just came out. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but it's like a combination of like Houdini and practical sets and like live action, as well as cell animation, kind of like over the top of everything. And the look of it is just unbelievable. You have absolutely like no idea how it was made.
Like how they make this thing. Yeah.
And I love that when I like see something and I just wonder, you know, like how do we even make this? It feels like new and fresh, and like, yeah. So that combination of like mediums is super exciting, and I feel like people, especially in the last few years, are starting to play with that a little bit more, which is great. I think maybe the most important thing is just to take time to develop your own voice. I think it's easy, and it's hard as a student when you're just kind of figuring out how it all works. It's hard to develop your voice, but taking time throughout your career to find out, you know, what's special about you, develop your own kind of taste, and, you know, take time to sort of cultivate that, because that in the end is the way that you stand out from others. So I think that's super important.
Yeah, it seems like there is so much content that needs to be made, and brands are looking to make content, and they're sort of seeking out people that do have like that original voice like you're talking about. And so to us, I think it's a really exciting time just to be a creator, because you can kind of have a career in just being yourself, you know. You do this, you know, there's people that do an illustration a day, you know, and over time, well, like individually maybe they're not that interesting, but then you build up this massive library of work, and then brands get excited about it and they kind of want to like be a part of that, you know, that sort of uniqueness. Yeah, I think we notice that a lot. I mean, and it feels like there are people who like, they make stuff and they're super talented and they'll put it out every once in a while, and it seems to be genuine and about like kind of the making of that thing. That they're so passionate about the stuff that they do that, you know, they put it out into the world. And I think that there's like the other side, which is maybe the negative side, where people are making stuff to like, oh, I don't have anything to post today. I haven't posted anything in a week. I've got to make something. And there's this pressure because of social media to like have to be making. And so you're not making because you want to, you're making because you feel like you have to keep up with, you know, other artists and people that inspire you and things like that. And that seems to create like a lot of anxiety in like the creative community.
And burnout too.
Burnout.
Yeah, people get tired. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, it's hard. I feel like people who put themselves out there and gain recognition professionally probably benefit from it. And I mean, just doing social content and like posting your stuff on platforms like YouTube, I mean, you can have an entire career just out of that without creating anything else. So there's all these different avenues that you can find success on. I think it's probably just about finding a balance that feels sustainable for, you know, you personally. I mean, we've been getting asked to do a lot of different types of projects, and that's been pretty creatively satisfying for us, seeing how our process and kind of like our storytelling can translate to sort of different mediums. So I hope that continues. We're also going to take some time off next year from client work to do some passion projects. That's something that we had kind of done every year in the past, but this past year we didn't do it. So definitely going to take some time off to do that and sort of develop our own voice and continue that kind of process. What else?
I think we wanted to do, you know, in Portland where we are, we wanted to do something like kind of branch out of the community some more. And so whether that's like having events, more events at the studio that, you know, the design community can come be a part of, or yeah, sort of making Portland a place where people can talk about design and get together and building a community there. I think it's something we're interested in too.
Oh, one of our plays? Oh, who is it? Can I ask?
I think it's Joyce.
Oh, Joyce.
Yeah. And she asked about who is your favorite member.
Oh, there's no favorite.
Joyce. Man.
Always stirring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joyce is from Taiwan. She's Taiwanese. Yeah. Well, it's definitely not Joyce.
It's not Joyce anymore. It was Joyce, but no more.
Yeah, not anymore.
No.
I don't know. We don't play favorites. You know, everyone's special, and yeah, we don't think about the team as individuals, but as like kind of a full family. So, yeah. Next question.